Congress wants to do that, it has to speak very clearly. It can't smuggle in this delegation through kind of ambiguous or broad language like what we see in the Emergency Powers Act. It needs to be very explicit in handing the president some kind of limited authority to impose unilateral tariffs.
Focused on that, he asked if, under the administration's argument, Congress could seek.
And also because this would, in a real way, disrupt the balance of power between Congress and the president. I think Justice Gorsuch is obviously correct that once the president is able to claim this under a precursor to the modern statute, and all three of those justices seemed open to the idea that Congress would have intended to carry through that power when enacted today's statute. But as Justice Barrett showed in a different colloquy, that could cut the other way. It could be that Congress wanted to reduce the president's power to impose tariffs to make sure that never happened again. So I think if I were a betting man, I would bet that the court's going to say these tariffs can't stand.
That's Mark Joseph Stern of Slate. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks so much.
Let's hear it now.
Live from NPR News in Boston, I'm Steve Brown. Signs of a potential end to the government shutdown are intensifying with behind-the-scenes talks. They come as the federal closure, its 36th day, is the longest shutdown ever. Disrupting the lives of millions of Americans. Senators from both parties are quietly trying to negotiate the contours of an emerging deal to reopen the government, solve the stalemate over health care funds for insurance subsidies. First responding, video showed flames on the plane's left wing and a trail of smoke. Plane then lifted slightly off the ground before crashing and exploding in a huge fireball. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says he expects the death toll to increase and said 16 families were left loved ones unaccounted for. The airport has since resumed operations. David Beckham has been knighted by
Natius.org. Some problems on I-80 westbound and eastbound in Joliet today. Westbound, you've got a crash at Parker Road that's causing stop-and-go traffic from Wolf. Eastbound, there's a cargo spill just past Cherry Hill Road that's causing solid traffic past Larkin. It's taking folks a while to get through there, so if you can get off 80 eastbound at 55 or Hollywood Road, I would absolutely do that today.
WBEZ is supported by the Dover Foundation, the philanthropic arm of Dover, a global manufacturer in the Chicago area, helping kids explore STEM activities with the Dover Tech Play Lab at Cole Children's Museum. DoverCorporation.com/community.
Sunny, breezy today. Temperatures at about 60 right now, but we'll be falling into the mid-50s by the time we go home today. Around 5 o'clock, expect temperatures around 53.
For technical computing and model-based design, MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And the Mirotra Institute for Business, Markets, and Society, hosting the Is Business Broken podcast, featuring conversations with academics, industry leaders, and politicians. More at ibms.bu.edu.
It's here and now. The government shutdown is officially the longest in U.S. history. We've been reporting on how it's affecting about 900,000 federal employees furloughed or working without pay, 42,000 laid off, and families struggling without Head Start programs or SNAP supplemental food benefits. Today we have an update and a glimmer of optimism because yesterday we spoke with Royal Palmer, owner of the Driftless Market and Deli in Platteville, Wisconsin, and we have a reason to bring him back today. Relying on SNAP to open up lines of credit at the store. You'd already given away nearly $3,000 worth of groceries. Your own bank account was in the red. What's happened since?
Well, yesterday after the show aired, my store phone just started ringing, and my employee picked it up, and she said, "Oh my gosh, someone wants to donate to us." And so someone had called from Massachusetts, and then as soon as we hung up the phone with her, someone called from Florida. I actually had to leave because I had to go to a class on campus to figure out how to donate.
Yeah, did people tell you why? What motivated them to help you out?
Yes, one person was like, "I was so moved by your story. My grandpa's goodness," and it was almost embarrassing, but in a good way.
You mentioned the power of goodness. I want to ask you about that because we've been talking with people across the country who told us about the ways that members of the community have stepped up to help people in this past month or so, either by donating to food banks or looking for extra money to keep Head Start programs open in Florida. I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
To our roots, and when we were really trying to build a better free nation where we could all humility that I got from all of those donations, it really kind of put me in this mindset of maybe it's time that we really do just need to ask for help in a more substantial way. And you know, I think these donations have brought to light just how close we are to closing, because without the donations, we probably would have been closing soon.
Royal Palmer owns the Driftless Market and Deli in Platteville, Wisconsin. Royal, thank you so much for talking with us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
More at cso.org/piano.
Life in America was expensive before the shutdown added new stresses. What does the economy look like from where you're sitting? Your stories next time on One Ed. Today at noon on WBEC.
Traffic on 80 eastbound in Joliet is getting worse. You've got a solid jam extending from Market east past Cherry Hill Road due to a crash. Cargo's been spilled on the interstate. It's taking some folks more than an hour to get through the area. Westbound, you're also seeing some traffic delays, though not as bad. Westbound, you've got a crash at Parker Road. Weather today looks pretty good. Sunny, breezy a little bit though. We'll see daytime highs right around 60, which is where we are, but we're expecting temperatures to start falling here in a couple of hours. By the time the evening rush gets underway for a lot of us, it'll be down in the low 50s. Mostly clear tonight with a low around 36, and then tomorrow we'll see plenty of clouds, maybe a couple of peaks of sunshine with a high around 56. Right now under a partly cloudy sky, it's 60 degrees. This is WBEZ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from Loomis Sales, committed to meeting the investment goals of institutional and individual investors across the globe. Combining in-house research and risk management, they create tailored investment strategies for every client. Learn more at Loomis Story to ignite engagement, reach new audiences, or enhance customer connections. WBUR.org/creative studio.
From NPR and WBUR, I'm Peter O'Dowd in Phoenix.
Scott Tong in Washington, D.C. This is Here and Now. Not many chefs in America are household names. One is Tom Colicchio. If you watch Top Chef, he's been head judge and executive producer for years.
Joe's dish is just amazing. The broth is really delicious. It's so flavorful. It's just perfect.
But well before that, Tom Colicchio was a chef in New York, making a name for himself at Standout Restaurant. And Tom Colicchio joins us to talk about it. Tom, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
You know, a lot has happened in 25 years in your own life, career in the restaurant and cooking world. In the author's note at the top, you write that the philosophy that runs through all my restaurants, which is the philosophy that runs through this book, has never changed. Lay out what that philosophy is.
Yeah, so the idea that, you buy the best ingredients you can, you treat them simply. I still think that cooking, doesn't need to be complicated.
And your cookbook, Think Like a Chef, the first few chapters are about what you describe as fundamentals. You kind of start with that and you go from there, and so much of our lives, you have to start there, yeah?
Sure. I mean, any discipline, if you're a musician, you can go out and learn 3 chords, and if you have a decent voice, you may sound good around a campfire. It doesn't make you a musician. You need to understand theory, you need to understand how chords are composed, you need to understand how to play modes and scales, and that all takes time. Same thing with cooking. There's some basic building blocks, and I think that too many people focus on the recipe as a means to an end as opposed to the techniques. And I think once you understand that, you can look at a recipe and go, okay, I know they want me to braise the slang shoulder, and I see how I'm getting the flavor in there, and then from there you can make it your own. You don't have to go and look at a recipe. And for me, I really struggled with trying to read through a recipe, and then it wasn't until I was about 15 or 16 or so, my dad brought home a bunch of cookbooks from where he worked, his library where he worked, and one of them was Jacques Pepin's La Technique, which was a book that focused more on techniques, not on recipes. Now, I had no idea what this book was doing in the county jail library. My dad was not an inmate.
That's a separate question here, right?
He was a corrections officer, and he brought this book home, and it just completely changed everything for me.
And there's a lot in your book about technique. And as an example, how do you apply it to your recipe for pan-roasted striped bass?
So roasting is referred to as a dry method of cooking, like where braising is a combination of dry and
mushrooms. But how do you think about mushrooms as a starting point?
Chefs think about how to build a dish. So if you look at vegetables now, there's unlimited amounts of flavor combinations you can come up with because there's so many varieties and they are different flavors. what I wanted to do was illustrate this point by using mushrooms. I have two different examples that I use. One chapter is studies. Most hobbies, you start out by buying some cookbooks, buying some magazines, eventually, fancy gadgets and knives, and then you get your kitchen remodeled. And it's becoming with the advent of the Food Network, and people really got an idea of the personalities. And then with Top Chef, you really got to see, I think, from start to finish, I think that people kind of lapse onto that because they can pick up bits of technique and see how you can approach different things. We're finding that a lot of people are, they come here maybe for 1 or 2 years, get some experience, and then they go back home. On the plus side is you have a lot of really good chefs that have great training that are going into secondary or tertiary cities now and opening up great restaurants. So there's good food all across America. And I think that, and when everything is more expensive, the high-end restaurants, there's a little more elasticity in pricing because the clientele can pay for it. So my concern is the neighborhood restaurants.
William Johnson able to actually see Scott Walker's without the Do you think President Trump believes in the system?
How am I gonna do?
Well, Frank, I heard the bulldozer metaphor from many describing the ball. Frank, here's the thing. Like, we go out into a place like Washington, D.C., sometimes we're surprised. We don't know what to expect from the people we talk to.
I did. I talked to a guy named Stephen Caton. He's 34, works for a clean energy company in California. He's really enthusiastic about the deconstruction.
I think it's going to be great. When you smash something down, everybody screams and says, oh, don't break that thing down. But then I'll bet when this ballroom's done, everyone's going to love it.
Our daily essentials are up, and now as the shutdown sets a record, social safety nets are disappearing. So we're giving you the money. How are you doing financially? Do you have the support you need? Your calls, 855-236-1818. Groceries, healthcare, paying the electric bill, 855-236-1212. Coming up right after these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Israeli military